Hello, everybody. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving break here. All right, so we are on week 14. All right, two more chapters to go. We're going to do renewable energies this week, and you have a podcast, not a current event that's due. So that podcast, just like Crazy Town Cats you listened to before, um, is due. I think on Wednesday the 9th next week. Okay, yeah, Wednesday the 9th. All right, and then you have your review sheet, of course, that's due on Sunday for this. Okay, and then next week we have one more chapter to go over. That's going to be managing our waste, but you're not going to have a worksheet with this because next week you're going to actually have an exam. All right, so your second exam, no review sheet, but the second video exam is going to come up on Monday the 7th, and you're going to have to Friday the 11th to complete it. Okay, you can't see it yet. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I can't. I'm not releasing it until Monday at 6 a.m. All right, so that's when it's going to come up Monday at 6 a.m. And then you have until Friday to take it. Okay. And then we have a finals week. All right, week 16. In your finals, you'll be posted Monday the 14th, and you have midnight until Monday the 18th to take your final on that day. Okay. All right, so let's get into the PowerPoint for today. Renewable energies. All right, so in this lecture, we're going to help you understand the reasons why we want to use renewable energies. It's kind of a no-brainer, I think. Um, why we want to use them. That's not really a tough decision to make, in my humble opinion. Major sources of renewable energies. We're going to talk about solar, wind, geothermal, ocean, hydroelectric power, bioenergy, and a little bit about hydrogen fuel cell technology. Okay. So Germany goes solar. This is one of my favorite case studies out there because Germany actually did this thing with their citizens. They said, "We're going to sell you citizens. You're going to be able to have the opportunity to buy solar panels, and then once you buy them, we're going to allow you to sell that electricity back to the electrical companies." And when that happens, that will pay for your little loan that we give you, the government, to pay off your solar panels so you don't lose any money. And that was so popular in Germany that they had to actually stop um, doing it after they put it in for 10 years, and they had to stop it after 8 years because they just did a tremendous job. All right. And they solarized their suburbs. Okay. And I wish we had a program like that. We kind of had one like that here in Pennsylvania. That's how I got my solar panels, but they've kind of stopped that here. Okay. Renewable Energy Sources of Act, it was called the Renewable Energy Source Act of 2000, and it signed a payment rate according to the market considerations. Okay. So that payment that they got for producing that electricity was supposed to be enough to gradually pay off their loans, and break even was zero. Since 1990, the carbon dioxide emissions in German energies has fallen by 25%, which is really good. Also, all these bad stuff that's also found in coal fire plants, and when you're burning coal, has also disappeared a little bit too. So that's even better as well. Okay, so it was a great success. All right, Germany's transition has not been completely smooth though. All right, they've had to it has shut down about 7 of its 15 nuclear plants in response to the Fukushima and increased the rate of coal combustion because of that accident that happened out in Fukushima. So some of that was offset. Okay. But they are actually changing how they're pricing electricity in the marketplace today. It's an amazing thing to watch to see how they're handling what's called the duck curve because they have so much electricity sometimes that the electricity rates are actually negative. They have to pay you to use electricity during the prime days when it's nice and windy and sunny out. They got too much, so they're trying to somehow store it overnight so that they can have it when the sun isn't shining, the wind's not blowing so much. Okay, and they're kind of changing the pricing model. It's a very interesting economic case study to follow, or to follow right in front of you. Right, it is really kind of historic what they're doing. So, having said that, conventional alternatives to fossil fuels such as hydropower and biomass are renewable, right? But they can be depleted or overused if we exert too much pressure on them, right? So we all know about carrying capacity and ecological footprint. You know, the story of the Lorax. We cut down too much trees. This biomass ain't going to grow back. And the hydropower, if we take out too much water, like we learned in the water section, we're not going to have enough to actually work that dam. All right, and that would be a disaster for Las Vegas, that's for sure. So the sun, wind, geothermal heat, and ocean water are all renewable because they are just beginning to be used on a wide scale. All right, they are harnessed using technology still in a rapid development phase. Okay, so the J curve to the adoption and the technology of solar panels is just about starting. All right, and sooner or later we'll get up to that S curve because we can't, change the laws of physics. We can only get so much solar energy out of a solar panel and a wind turbine. Okay, but we're faster and faster approaching that theoretical of value of efficiencies, and I like to see that. They will play a much larger role in the future, that's for sure. Okay, we don't really have a choice, in my humble opinion. You may think we have a choice, and you can argue that if you want, but in my humble opinion, I don't think we have a choice to, not to switch over to renewable energies, and it can be done, that's for sure. So new renewable sources are growing fast. Okay, we can see here fossil fuels is 89% of what we're doing, and renewables is only about 10. All right, here in the United States. And for electricity, all right, so this is everything combined, the way we drive our cars and everything else, transportation. And for electricity, it's only about 15%. So we need to flip that over. And you can see that only about 8% of this 15% solar panels. Most of it is actually dams, all right, hydropower. And that's considered a renewable resource, but we got to remember that it is all about location, location, location. I think we have dammed probably about every damn place we can dam in America. So it's not gonna be easy to find new places to produce a lot of electricity. Even around the world, even China just built their biggest dam ever, and we'll see how they go. The use of new renewables provide many benefits. Okay, we reduce air pollution, greenhouse gases, and it's a diversification to the economy energy mix. That's what I like the most about it, is that it's going to really help the economy, because not only the diversification, because we know diversification means resilience, right? And resilience means sustainability. So if we have all these different, um, you know, renewable energies working as one, we can provide enough for everything else. Okay, but you can still see we're stuck on coal, oil, or natural gas for everything. We need to actually increase our use of these renewable energies. And nuclear, we'll talk about. We can debate whether or not we want to use nuclear power or not. Okay. So shifting from renewable energies creates a new employment. That's for sure. Okay, I was just correcting the economic part, and we saw that regulations actually increase jobs. All right, there's more benefits than cost when we put in a regulation for scrubbers and CO2 in coal-fired plants and stuff like that. The same impact will happen with renewable energies. We will see a lot more jobs and a lot more benefits to the economy if we start switching over to renewable energies, because of the diversification, and we're going to have what's called green collar jobs. I mean, these are jobs that you can have forever. Right? Coal runs out sooner or later. Right? And that coal mine's got to shut down. Same with that fracking well and things like that. Okay, so but these always need to be maintained. And there's some pros and cons to them, of course. Right? But the jobs are going to be definitely there. Okay. Although prices are falling, most renewable energies still remain just a little bit more expensive than the fossil fuel energies. And I think this is kind of a misnomer, because we've talked many a times about in this class about what's called the carbon tax, right? So there's some taxes out there that some cost to what we're doing that are not attributed into the cost of our real cost of our electricity, the true cost of electricity. All right. And if we put in a carbon tax, this disparity right here that we see for PV solar, right, for the megawatts would be the same as coal. It's almost as efficient. But this number is not including some of the negative externalities that coal, nuclear power, and natural gas or that have. Okay, but you can see the market price, especially wind power. Look at wind power; it's actually cheaper than coal now. Right, that's excellent. Okay, biomass coming close. Okay, but it's definitely on par today. Okay, policies that support renewable energies may include feed-in tariffs like the Germany did. Okay, goals that mandate set by governments. All right, that a minimum percentage of power comes from renewables. That's what Pennsylvania did when they did their little program during the last economic downturn. They said, hey, Duquesne Light and West Penn Power, all the power plants around here in Pennsylvania, need to have 25% of their energy come from renewables. And they didn't necessarily have to build a big, huge plant. What they did is they did kind of like a feed-in tariffs. So I have solar panels, and what I do is I sell them back to Duquesne Light, and they say, hey, here's my solar credits right here. It's kind of like a credit. Okay. Government investment in research and development, I think it's definitely investment. That's what, our taxes. Every time I write my taxes, I always say it's my commons contribution. All right. And I say that is because that we need to build this infrastructure out there to make things work. All right. Leading programs to renewable energy startup businesses, lending programs. All right, so let's put a little bit of money in there, and of course do our due diligence, make sure the companies are good. But we actually did this during the last Great Recession when the banks collapsed, and that lending program that we put in for alternative energies did real good. The taxpayer actually made money off it. Of course, it had its failures. All right, out there. I think one was like called Cylindra or something like that. Um, but another one that participated in that was called Tesla. And look at it now. Holy cow, the thing keeps on going crazy. That's one of the biggest companies in the world now. And they actually got a little bit of money from that downturn there. So we can also do what's called tax credits and rebates for individuals. If you buy like a electric car, you will be able to get a little tax rebate. All right, so you could buy, I think it's $7,200 back if you go buy a Tesla, or you can just go buy a Honda. All right, you'll get $7,002 back, or $7,200 back. I think that's what it is. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. It changes every once in a while. It might have changed since the last. That's what I got last time when I bought. I have an electric car. Partial electric. It's a hybrid Prius. I get 110 miles to the gallon, baby. So I'm talking about. I think I've filled my gas tank up 3 times since the COVID hit. All right, so policies and investments can accelerate our transition, that's for sure. In many cases, governments have subsidized fossil fuels and nuclear energy. Okay, so you can see right here, it's subsidies. These are all like basically the tax breaks that oil and gas. So imagine we took these out, what the true cost of the wind turbines and solar panels would be compared to coal and oil and natural gas. I mean, it's amazing the amount of subsidies that go into these companies, and they're billions years old. All right, and they make billions and billions of dollars. So they also have very little for fossil fuels or renewable. You can see here in this little um, section of the chart. Okay, and also nuclear power gets a lot of extra money from our system. So per year, oil and gas have received about 13 times more subsidies than nuclear power has received. More than 9 times more support than renewables. All right, and I think we need to switch that over. In my humble opinion, you can decide that for yourself if you want to. All right, you could say, hey, no, we still need to use fossil fuels. in my humble opinion, I don't think we'll ever get rid of fossil fuels, but I think they're strong enough to be able to support themselves and pay the true cost of the oil and gas. And I want the true cost of biofuels and renewables. I think if we put it all on an even playing field, it will happen. Okay. Only one in one single year have solar, wind, geothermal combined have ever received as much support as the lowest amount of ever offered to oil, gas, and nuclear power. Right, and that's more of a political thing. So we got to pick out our politicians properly. One of the reasons why you go out there and vote. Okay. Well, there's a couple of different kinds of energy, right? And then primary energy, of course, is solar energy. This is what provides all the energy for the Earth out there. If it wasn't for the sun shining on us, we would not even have the fossil fuels that we have today. Right? So solar energy is energy from the sun, and the Earth receives enough solar energy each day to power human consumption for about 25 years. But the problem is, and you'll hear that in this little video there or the podcast, is that we can't capture all that. Right? I mean, what are we gonna do? Put out solar panels all over the oceans? Okay. So that is kind of like a funny stat, but it is amazing how much we can actually get from the sun if we actually had our chance. Okay, we'd be hunky dory. All right. Finding cost-effective ways for efficiently collecting and converting it is the major challenge, of course, right? But the basic designs, there's a solar uh, industry called, or I shouldn't say industry, a section in the building area called sustainable building design. All right, and we actually have a class here at Robin Morris. I think it's elective you guys can actually take. There's a minor for sustainability. But I think anybody can take those classes. Don't be afraid if you're interested in learning how to design uh, sustainable buildings and stuff like that. Think about taking that class. All right. Um, but I teach that class, and one of the first things we talk about is passive solar energy. This is the best way to start your design for a building because this is the free energy that you get from the sun. All right, and if you design the everything correctly, you will be able to get free energy. Okay, so this is where we always start from, right? Then there's some other things you need to do is plant some vegetation to, add some temperature buffers to the building and things like that. There's techniques called thermal mass that you put certain materials in here to slowly store the heat. All right, these blinds in here are meant to divert the sun during the summertime when it's really hot and high up into the sky. All right, and it's low enough for during the winter time that it's going to peer in here. All right, there's a lot of different ways we design these little houses. And this is called passive solar because we are not actually moving the energy. We're trying to capture the energy from the sun right on from the get-go. All right. Uh, we also have what's called active solar energy, where we have the sun heating up this water up here, and then we have to actually use some energy, some pumps to pump the hot water. So the water comes in here cold and runs around these little pipes and gets warmed up by the sun. By the time it gets up here, and it's just a little equation, all right, of sun's rays heating up the water and time and temperature, okay, till it gets really hot, and then comes in here and runs around in here and cools off, but it cools off and heats up this water in here for your hot water tank. All right, so active is taking the sun's energy and actually having to move that energy and putting it somewhere else, okay, into your boilers or whatever. All right, and believe me, these things work pretty darn good. All right, you'd be amazed how fast the sun can hold it. Can heat up a little bit of water for your shower. We also have what's called concentrated solar plants. All right, and they just intensify the solar energies, just like a solar cooker. When you were a kid and you took the magnifying glass and you hung it up to the sun and you had that ray of light there and you tried to burn that leaf. That's all you're doing right here, but you're concentrating it up into this little tower. right? So all these mirrors reflect all the suns into this tower. And in this tower is salt, basically. And they call it molten salt. And they try to make this salt super, super hot, right? And then that molten salt goes off, and over here somewhere is the electrical plant. That molten salt goes out to um, a electrical plant where they're boiling water to make some steam to turn a turbine, and then that turbine sends some magnets around some copper wires to make some electricity. Okay, that's all it is. But the heat source, instead of burning coal, they're heating up salt with these mirrors. Okay, and there's a city, I think it's Madrid, Spain, I think it is, or somewhere in there. Somewhere, I think it's in Spain. Uh, the whole city runs on this. Almost, they can almost keep this molten salt hot enough overnight to run the whole city. They're very close, but they just can't get it there because of the laws of physics. I mean, that's just the way it is. All right. But it's pretty interesting to see that whole city. It's a major. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Madrid. All right. Um, so this is just heating up using the sun's heat once more. And then there's the photolithic cells, which is using the photons, basically, of the um, electricity of the sun to excite the electrons in these photolithic cells. All right, so here's your photolithic cell. The sun hits that light ray, all right, and it excites those electrons, and they go around to the load and start it up, and then come back around just like any other current. All right. It just works just basically like a battery, but it's live in person. All right, and you can run them in what's called series and parallel to figure out what you need to do. Um, and this, self, we usually see these big solar panels, okay, but there's also thin film solar cells. Sometimes you see them in some calculators or a piece of like a hat. I think my son has some in a hat. Real thin wafers of uh, solar cells. All right. And producers of PV electricity must be able to either store their excess energy or sell their power to a local utility. So that's the really problem is the storage. We only really have batteries for storing this, and that can be expensive. So if you're not called what's called tied into the grid, using what's called net metering. That's what I do. I don't have a battery array for mine. I do have a battery array though for my wind turbine. Okay, um, but if you don't have that, you're going to be sent back into. You just send it back to the grid. And you work with Duquesne Link. Okay. So solar energy has many advantages over other energies. It's inexhaustible, right? Source for humans. Sooner or later, the sun will go out, but that's going to be billions of years from now. And if solar energy reaches the Earth to power civilization, but once we learn how to harness it, we just got to learn how to harness it. No fuel is needed to get it unless you're doing some active stuff. There are no moving parts, so little maintenance is required for solar panels and stuff like that. Many new green jobs will be created, and of course, the greenhouse gases and other pollutants won't be emitted while we're generating electricity or whatever. But remember, we're still going to have some greenhouse gases that we build and stuff, so we got to do the proper cost benefit analysis. So one major drawback of solar energy is not every region is equal. All right, so we got all these different areas. All right, in the United States, so this would be the best area for solar panels, and here in Pittsburgh is the worst. But look at Germany; it's even worse. All right, they're kicking our butts, folks. All right, Spain, yeah, Madrid, Spain. I think that's where one of these areas. I don't know which one it is, but it's in here. It's in Spain, that country I was talking about has the major city. That's all using that concentrated solar panels, all right, for that. Solar energy is intermittent resource, so it's daily variations. Of course, we're not going to have any during the nighttime. Okay, solar energy also has a high upfront cost, so we need to purchase. Purchasing the equipment and installing equipment is expensive, but after a while, you can break even. So currently, most installations for the homeowners in a business is about 10 to 20 years of use, and typically the break even has been about 10 years for installing. So you break even on your 10th year, and you can use it all the way to your 20th year. And that's basically what mine was. I actually had the 8 year break even because I live on a farm, so I got some extra grants when I put mine in. All right, but my warranty is for 20 years. Okay. Due to lack of government investment in the past decades, solar energy is just 0.61 use of the U.S. energy supply. This is changing, however. Okay, PV technology is the fastest um, growing power source today, having recently doubled every 2 years. So it's doubled every single 2 years. And the price has gone down, and the production has gone up. Right, but currently China is the one that's actually kicking our butts on this of producing solar panels. All right, let's do a couple of wind and then we'll get done with this. Okay, so wind power is generated from the movement of air caused by differential heat masses. So it's driven by the sun once more. Technically, the wind, that's what makes the wind go. All right, and wind turbine just convert mechanical energy of the wind into electrical energy. All right, so the wind turns the blades of the rotor, which has the nacelle inside. So inside of here, all right, the wind turbine moves. All right. So instead of the steam turning the turbine, the wind is turning the turbine. And inside of here is the generator with the magnets and the copper wires, which creates electricity and it just flows down the wind turbine. Okay. That's all it is. Simple as that. Instead of burning coal to turn a turbine, we're using the wind to turn the turbine. And this design you see all over the place because it's probably one of the most efficient. We've tried our best and gone through a lot of variations of wind turbines and stuff like that. We know how to make these, and this is one of the best, most efficient ways to get energy. But of course, the wind doesn't blow all the time. So engineers design turbines with called a yaw, and they rotate back and forth to change direction and ensuring it's getting good wind. Wind speeds highly influence the electrical generation. So a doubling of wind speed and velocities increases power output by 8 times. All right, but there is also a certain limit that it gets to, about 65%. All right, so we can only capture about 65% of all that wind going in there in those turbines. That's the Beto's law. Okay, turbines are often erected in groups, and this development is called a wind farm. All right, just like if a solar farm, you got a wind farm. And wind power is growing fast. All right, capacity is growing quickly with China, United States, and Germany having them greatest. So you can see also just like the solar panels, here's the wind turbines. All right, production going up and cost is going down. And I get really excited when I see these graphs, but you got to remember it's still only about 2%. So if we, I told you we doubled solar panels or renewable energies, you might say yay, but we went from 1%, 2%. That's not really that great. All right, when you look at it in relative terms. Okay? Most of the world's wind power capacity is found in China. United States is not far behind with 16%. Germany's kicking butt with 10, India 5, and Spain with 4. So wind is also disproportional. You got to have a certain area, a certain biome to generate the wind and stuff like that. So you got to have some land. So it's all about location, location, location as well. All right. In wind, also we do what's called offshore sites, which are very productive. Right? Because there's nothing blocking the wind, right? There's no mountains, no trees, no nothing, right? But you got to remember the initial costs are a lot higher because we're going out to the ocean here, and finding the ocean tides and stuff are tough. All right, it's not easy. All right, um, but it has, but they do have a lot more long-term energy potential and profitability. It's just overcoming Mother Nature and figuring out the best way to do these. All right, because wind power has a lot of benefits. About 1,500 tons of carbon dioxide, offset. All right, 6.1 megawatts. So wind turbine. So 6.5 tons of sulfur dioxide, 3.2 tons of nitrogen dioxide, and 600 pounds of mercury, baby. All right. And it can produce 20 times more energy than they consume. So the EROI, remember we talked about that in the fossil fuels, the energy return on investment value is better than most other energy sources. Okay, so we get a really good bang for a buck when we produce a wind turbine to put it up for its lifetime use. All right, so wind power can also be easily scaled up and adding more and stuff like that to the area of land. All right. And just like how we have a sun map, we got a wind map. And here in the United States, the Midwest is the best because it's the plains, right? It's nice and flat out there. All right. And then, of course, the coastal regions get some of the best wind out there as well. Okay. And you can see generating capacity, the best one is Texas. Hey, they do it better in Texas. All right. This always cracks me up. All right. Because where the fossil fuel industry is. So what's happening is a lot of what's called fracking and all that good oil is drying up there in Texas. And they're just saying, okay, we can't do oil. Let's go switch over to wind power. All right. And they seem to be doing okay with it. Okay. They seem to be getting a lot of jobs out of it as well. Okay. Most of the U.S. population lives along the coast too. So as we saw on here, we can see the coast is where we get a lot of our wind, and this is where the major population of the United States actually lives. Okay, so when wind farms are posed near population centers, residents often oppose them though, and they try to say, "Not in my backyard. I don't want, I want my Nantucket sailing ship vessel lanes all clean." Right? Nowhere to go. Okay, but they say the same thing about fossil fuels. The Florida and Georgia and South Carolina, I guess, all banned offshore drilling. All right, Trump actually announced it. It was funny as heck because he was always getting on Joe Biden for not promoting fossil fuels, and he goes, "I just banned offshore drilling for 10 years," and I thank him. All right, I'm not opposed. Okay, but don't tell me we can't put wind turbines up there because we kind of should. All right. If you don't want to have drilling in 10 years, we better start doing some wind turbines. So that's not my backyard. And then wind turbines are also pose threat to birds and bats. Okay. But that happens all the time. Imagine how many birds and bats and stuff are displaced when we blow up a mountain for mountaintop removal. All right. Or a spring is poison through fracking fluids or something like that. Right, and we're doing the research, and the research shows that the birds and bats aren't really dying at greater rates. I mean, cars going down the road kill more birds, and also the cats out there and stuff like that. So it's not as big as a problem as people perceive it is. All right, but of course it is a problem. Sometimes we like to put up on wind turbines where it's windy. And believe it or not, birds are smart. All right, they fly where it's windy as well to catch those waves, and that's what they learn. Um, it's kind of inbred in them. They catch those channels too, and so we know that, and we shut down the wind turbines when the flock comes and is going south or north or what have you. All right, all right. Let's stop there, and then we'll get into some of the other alternative um, renewable energies like geothermal and stuff like that next time. Okay. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and don't forget that we have a um, test next week. Okay. All righty. We'll see you soon.